Greetings, mighty companions. Anna Kajawa here, and this is healing, practical and healing applications of A Course in Miracles with Anna Kajawa. And we are going to do A Course in Miracles, and we're going to see how we can apply that practically and for healing purposes. So, um, uh, we're I will do just a couple minute opening meditation just to allow ourselves to become present. I already did the random number generator, so I know where we're going to go. But let's just touch base with our own soul. Let's just check, do a little spiritual check in, feel our soul. Hi, soul. Hi, self. And then we'll go on to the teacher's manual where we're going to be. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to just close our eyes and do a spiritual check-in with our soul. So if you haven't already, go ahead and close your eyes and take a breath. And let's tune our awareness inward, inward and upward, within. Turning our awareness inward, breathing in the moment. In our own awareness, let's come back home to the present moment, where who you really are lives and is waiting for you. Instructing our minds that it's safe to rest in the right now. It's safe to come back home to the right now, allowing our minds to rest in the now, allowing our minds to open beyond the body, beyond the world. Telling yourself, beyond this world, there is a world I want, and it is within me now. And saying to yourself silently, peace to my mind, let all of my thoughts be still. And practicing the holy instant, let's give this precious moment to Spirit, to our higher self, our divine right mind, as we say within ourselves in silence. Divine right self, divine right mind, this perfect, precious moment do I give to you. Be you in charge. Divine right mind, this perfect, precious moment do I give to you. Be you in charge. For I would follow you, Spirit, certain that your direction will bring me peace. And just breathe, enjoying this moment now, feeling the power of this moment now, feeling the peace of this moment now, and feeling the eternal nature of this moment right now. Take note of the peace and the power and the joy that you find when you are present to this moment now. Peace is in the present. Love is in the present. Home is in the present. To that we say, thank you, Spirit. And when you're ready, take a breath, and open your eyes, bring your awareness back to the room, back to the now. Wonderful to see you all. Hi, Diana. Hi, Aklak. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you all.
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Welcome. Come on in. And what's your name?
I'm Carol.
Hi, Carol. A nice night, Carol. If I hadn't started class, I'd run and give you a big hug. I'd never seen you in person. Lovely to see you, sweetie. Welcome. Welcome. All right. Wonderful. So, where we are in the Course in Miracles today is in the Teacher's Manual, and it's section 5 in the Teacher's Manual. And in the Teacher's Manual is the part of the Course in Miracles where the author of A Course in Miracles attempts to answer a lot of questions that come up for Course in Miracles students. And A Course in Miracles assumes that if you're a Course in Miracles a Course in Miracles student, you're also a Course in Miracles teacher. Because A Course in Miracles says that the only way to truly learn something is to share it. So to be a Course in Miracles student implies that you are going to be a Course in Miracles teacher, which means you are going to be sharing these ideas. And as somebody who's going to be sharing these ideas with other humans, there's a few things that it wants you to remember as you're sharing these ideas with others, all right? And this section is called, How is Healing Accomplished? Ta-da! How is healing accomplished? All right. So we're going to talk about the mechanics of healing. Okay, what are the mechanics of healing? And a little spoiler alert, they're all They're all in the mind. They all start in the mind, you know. And when you are having healing thinking, then whatever comes through you physically works. It doesn't matter what technique you use. When you know what healing really is, then whatever you do physically works. Okay. So, right, so we're going to talk about how is healing accomplished. The first thing I want you to think about before we begin is where is an area of your life where you are in need of healing? Or is there somebody in your life that you are like, they are in need of healing, but I have no idea how to help them? And I sure would love to have some ideas about how to help them, because I don't know how to help them. They who are obviously in need of healing. So bring that to your awareness. Bring that to your awareness. And if you can't think of anything, then ask me. I'll give you some of mine. All right, everybody come up with something. Something. So as we go through this, I want you to keep that in mind and ask questions like, yeah, but what about, how do you apply it to this? How do you apply it to this person? So keep that in mind, and feel free to ask questions about how to apply this to what your example is. All right? Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Bridget, for writing that. Hi, Demi. Lovely to see you. Okay, here we go. How is healing accomplished? Healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. Period. And understanding what the illusion of sickness is for. Wait a minute, sickness is for something? and sickness is an illusion? Wait a minute. So an understanding of the mind of what the problem, what the sickness is for. So first thing it's telling us is it's an illusion. Next thing it's telling us is that it's serving a purpose of some kind, which implies that healing is not an accident. It's not something that happens randomly to anybody else. I mean, just the first three implications are very difficult to believe, correct? And that reminds me, I want to tell you and remind myself that Course in Miracles itself says that as you are listening to it, as you are reading it and studying it, the first thing that you need to remember is that some of these ideas you will find hard to believe. And some of these ideas you will actively resist. Okay? It says it doesn't matter. It says it doesn't matter. It already knows that we don't believe these ideas. That's why we need these ideas, because we don't already believe them. That's why we need them. And so just understand that because we don't already believe them, that we may encounter tremendous resistance. Okay, you may resist them, and that's okay. It says don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about that it's hard to believe. Don't worry about that. It says all you're asked to do is to apply them as this curriculum is teaching you in every paragraph how to do it. So it tells you the idea, then it tells you how to apply them, and that's what the whole workbook is for. So just remember that as we go along. We don't believe these ideas. That's why we need them. We don't understand the true nature of healing. That's why we still all experience suffering. If we all knew the truth about healing, we would never suffer. And we all still suffer. So we don't know the true nature of suffering, and we don't know the true nature of healing. But we don't have to in order to apply these and get the miracles of healing that come from the application. Okay? All right. Beautiful. Okay. So it says healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. And then it says healing is impossible without an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. Okay, what is this for? What is this problem for? What is this suffering for? What is this sickness for? What purpose is it serving? What am I using it for? What is my fearful mind using it for? Okay. Only a fearful mind that doesn't know the truth about itself thinks that it needs sickness to accomplish something. Okay, so we're not talking about our right minds. We're talking about our fearful minds, our wrong minds, our minds that don't know. Okay, great. So that was the first part. And then it says the perceived purpose of sickness. Now, Carol, would you like to follow along with the book? We have books here. Yes, thank you. Yeah. All right. Okay, so the next section is called the perceived purpose of sickness. So you could say to yourself, the perceived purpose of what I'm going through right now. The perceived purpose of this problem that I have. Okay, I'm going to talk about it. It says, healing is accomplished the instant the sufferer no longer sees any value in pain. Drop the mic. Okay, the instant the person who's suffering sees no longer sees any value in their suffering, in their pain. The instant, that's pretty fast, eh? The instant I no longer see any value in this pain, in this problem, in this suffering. Okay? And then it says, who would choose to suffer unless they thought the suffering brought them something and something of value to them? Okay? Wow. Okay, so what are you telling me, Course in Miracles? You're telling me that I'm suffering because I see value in this pain, this suffering, and which means that I think this suffering, this pain, this problem is bringing me something of value. Hard to believe? Yes, because that is not at all what I think is where my suffering came from, at all. But what's coming to my mind right now, it's difficult for me to see that about my suffering right now. But what's coming to my mind right now is I remember when I was a little kid, and I was accident prone, and I was always sick. I was always sick. And I was the middle child, and I had a special needs older brother. And you know, always accident prone, always sick. And one day, my mother, in her miraculous wisdom in that moment, pulled me aside one day and said, you know, Anna, you don't need to be the good girl anymore. You don't need to take care of us, you know. And I saw them suffering in their challenge of caring for my special needs older brother. And somehow she knew that I was experiencing a lot of sickness, either to, you know, to balance things out or to get attention for myself or something. But she, you know, she had that awareness. And I remember that after the value and the purpose that my sickness was serving, in my mind, in my child mind, I did not get sick as much anymore. I stopped being the accident prone kid. I was always going to the emergency room. So, it's a little easier. And I remember seeing it when my daughter was a little kid. Whenever she would feel guilty about something or feel bad about something, the next thing I could literally set my watch to it. She'd fall and skin her knee, or something would happen, and then she'd be crying. And I was like, see, it's easier to see in children sometimes. But we're being asked to now apply that to ourselves and ask ourselves, what is the payoff to me in this? And A Course in Miracles knows that you're looking for something that's unconscious. It knows that you're looking for something that's unconscious. We don't consciously, we don't consciously think, okay, I'm going to get sick and then I'll get my attention, or then I'll get my needs met, or then I will be made special, or then people will notice me, or whatever. Okay? It's an unconscious process. And A Course in Miracles says that because of the rapidity, how fast it is that we make the decision for what we want that sickness or that suffering to accomplish, because of how fast we do it, we don't remember doing it. But the Course in Miracles says that's fine. You don't have to consciously remember doing it. All you have to do is say, ask yourself, what could be the payoff for this? What is the payoff in this? And then, I no longer see any value in this. This has no more value to me, and it would be gone. Okay, so you don't have to remember it. All you have to do is assume that what it's saying is true, that it has some payoff, and then look for what possible payoff that could be, even if it's a payoff that you developed from childhood. Like maybe the payoff in whatever way I'm suffering right now is something like from childhood. Something that you don't remember making that decision. We don't remember. So that's all right. Okay? All right, beautiful. Okay. Great. Then it says this. It says, right, who would choose to suffer unless they thought the suffering brought them something and something of value to them? The sufferer must think that their suffering is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. Wow. Why? Because sickness is an election, which means sickness is a decision, which means sickness is a choice of weakness in the mistaken conviction that weakness is strength. Hard to believe? Yes. And when this mistaken conviction that sickness is strength occurs, then real strength is seen as threat and health is seen as danger. Wow. Right. There's an unconscious old part of us that came to believe, probably in childhood, that if we weren't experiencing suffering or trouble, that maybe we wouldn't have gotten the attention. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten noticed. Maybe we wouldn't have felt like we had any control or power in the situation. When you're a child, there's so many reasons and ways that unless you are sick and suffering as a kid, then your needs go unnoticed. What's that saying? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So as children, many of us learned that, it's many of our parents, when we were little, they're busy. They're, had their own problems. They're busy. They're overworked. There's other children. As children, you feel so powerless to get your needs met. And as a child, you learn very quickly, if I am hurt or sick or a troubled child in trouble with the police or at school, then I may not get my needs met. Anybody recognize that? Anybody recognize that? You know, I was one of those kids, like I said, I had an older brother who had special needs, you know, always, you know, going through something. And then I had a younger brother, the baby. So here I am in the middle, like, what about me? And then I was always sick. So, okay, so it makes sense. Now, as a child, if you, as a child, then to be perfectly happy and healthy would really, in a way, be a threat and a danger. Why? Because nobody's gonna notice my needs. Nobody's gonna notice my needs, right? If I'm completely happy and healthy, who's going to notice me and make me special or take care of my needs? So, and I just bring up the childhood thing because it's easier to see it in that context, isn't it? And, you know, so many of the decisions that we made as children just continued right on into adulthood, because that's what happens as a child. The decisions you make about what makes you safe are decisions that continue on into adulthood until those decisions that went into your unconscious are brought to your awareness, and you go, that's not true. That's, at least it's not true for me now. That's not true. I don't want that. That belief has no more value to me. So until you bring those old beliefs and that belief system into your conscious mind as an adult, it just keeps on running in the background. And whatever's going on in your unconscious mind, that's what's really running the show. That's the real director of the show. It's not what you think is happening right now, what your conscious mind is thinking about. That's why we have these weird patterns that no matter what you do to change them, they never change, because those patterns are being projected from your unconscious mind, not your conscious mind. It's like I get up in the morning, I go, this is what I want to do today, and this is what I think is happening, but that's not really what's determining how my life goes. It's those old beliefs from childhood that I never looked at, questioned, and unlearned. And so, but when you work this process is basically automatically going into your unconscious mind and going, what's the payoff? When you ask that question, what's the payoff of this? What's my payoff? You are literally accessing beliefs that have been in your unconscious mind running your show, So, and we know that what's in our unconscious mind is running the show when we ask questions like, why is this happening to me? It's such a mystery. Everything I try to do to change it doesn't work. That's how you know. Because you don't understand where it's coming from or why it's happening to you. If it was coming from your conscious mind, you'd be like, oh yeah, right, let's see why that's happening. Okay, does that make sense? So, okay, any questions or comments?
I have
Yes.
one example that strays away from the idea of just a physical manifested illness. And that is the defense mechanism that I developed and have only in the last couple of years become aware of hypervigilance.
Yes.
Because I didn't feel safe around my father. And tuning in to his mood
was survival.
Kept me safe.
That's right. Exactly. And so And so being hypervigilant or maybe anxious is a latter development of hypervigilance. Anxiety, you know, which you developed for survival, you know, now is something that you unconsciously believe keeps you safe. And so having no anxiety would be seen as a threat and a danger. Absolutely. You know, it's a great example of one of those decisions or one of those payoffs for the suffering in childhood that continued on into adulthood.
And it was a survival strategy that was useful at the time.
Absolutely.
But it keeps running on autopilot even though I don't need it anymore.
It's exactly right. Those payoffs were our survival strategies, which kept us alive. You know, they were very valuable in childhood. They were our survival strategy. But once we got to an adult and we didn't need that survival strategy, now that survival strategy becomes a problem. It becomes a sickness. It becomes a suffering because it's not appropriate. It's an automatic reaction that's not appropriate to what's going on. So now it's not protecting you anymore. Now it's sabotaging your peace. You know. So thank you for saying that. The payoff was very often the survival value from the past. And maybe it wasn't childhood, maybe it was young adulthood, you know, when something traumatic happened and you developed a survival or a coping mechanism, you know, that you believed kept you safe emotionally or physically, that is still in place. You know, and that you haven't gone, I don't need that survival strategy anymore. And that survival strategy is actually sabotaging my safety now. Okay, so, you know, but somewhere in the past where you decided if I am sick or suffering, I will be safer. Okay, all right. Great comment. Yes.
So that lesson, sickness is a defense against the truth.
Yes.
Always been sort of fascinated with that lesson. I mean, as you go through this, maybe work that in a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sickness is a defense against the truth.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you know, well, in here, we're talking about sickness is a defense. It was this will keep me safe from danger, you know. So for sure it was, you know, in this as well. But I'll keep that in mind as I go through.
Well, the simple answer is it's a decision to see illusions instead of the truth.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's a decision, for example, to see myself and everybody else as a body that's mortal, fallible, and can die, as opposed to the truth.
Right.
Right, because I remember that lesson will say, as soon as truth comes knocking at your door, gets a little too close, bam, we get sick. And
Right.
it takes us right back into
Right.
sickness and illusion again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I feel like I've read this section a lot of times and I just can't nail it.
Yeah. And Bridget says sickness is a definite defense against the truth. So thanks for saying that. And Diana says, such a liberating question. What's the payoff? Such a liberating question. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. What's the payoff is literally, it's like a key that unlocks your unconscious beliefs that usually are locked and secret and hidden, you know, away. What's the payoff? That question immediately assumes that it's a decision, it's an election that your mind made, you know, in the mistaken conviction that it would keep you safe. And it's very easy to see how we chose sickness as children to keep us safe. It's very easy to see in that context. A little more difficult to see how we do it today, but that's all right. Okay. All we have to do is ask the question, what's the payoff? Okay. So we want to ask ourselves, if you're in a relationship and you notice that you're in a conflict, to ask yourself, what's the payoff in this conflict that I'm having with this person? What's the payoff in this conflict I'm having with them? But what do you mean a payoff in the conflict I'm having with them? I'm having this problem because of them. I didn't choose that. They chose that. I just have a problem because of what they did. Right. And he said, any suffering, all suffering is sickness, is an election, is a decision. Right. If somebody wanted to pick a fight with me, but I didn't have a purpose for suffering and conflict, then I would see their picking a fight with me as a call for love. I wouldn't be like, what is your problem? I wouldn't be all defensive, like, I would be like, are you okay? You must be, is everything all right? How can I help you? Okay. So if I am experiencing conflict in any of my relationships, there's a freaking payoff for me. Somehow it's just a manifestation of my belief that conflict with others somehow keeps me safe. Well, of course, it keeps intimacy away from me, and I'm afraid of joining, and I'm afraid of love, because I'm afraid love's going to reject me. So now I'm afraid of love. So now conflict and fighting in my relationships has a payoff for me. It keeps me safe from love. Just as an example. All right. Now, it says, okay, now I'm going to skip to, just to save us time, and I'm going to skip to number 2, where it says the shift in perception. Does everybody see that? Just to save us time. All right.
But it's like your higher mind defends against anything that's not true and good for you. And that's what causes the sickness.
That your higher mind is doing what?
It defends against anything that's not the truth or good for you. Mm-hmm. And that causes the sickness.
Gotcha. It almost sounds like it's the ego that's defending. The ego defending against the truth. And then that produces the sickness.
But Spirit's always moving you towards.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. But Spirit's moving you always toward it. Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And sometimes that causes.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful.
Because Spirit does anything to push us in the right direction.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly.
Now that's more what I saw sickness for, or what it is for, is to I always I thought it was teaching me I'm looking at something the wrong way, and
Well,
I've got to, because why am I sick? Well, I'm
Right.
sick because something's going on that I'm not.
Right.
So I'm
That's
thinking of physical sickness.
That
I guess,
is
more.
what you're talking about is Spirit's reinterpretation of sickness. Okay. So what you're doing is good. That's what, you're saying, what is the sickness showing me?
That's what I.
Okay. That's Spirit's correct interpretation of the sickness. The sickness itself came from the ego.
Okay.
Okay. So it's never that Spirit or God is giving anybody the sickness to teach them a lesson. Love doesn't do that. God doesn't do that. Spirit doesn't do that. I'm going to kick your butt with sickness or this car accident to teach you a lesson. What are you trying to teach me, God? He's like, I didn't do that. I didn't do that to you. You did that to you, but I can help you reinterpret it. I can help you reinterpret it and turn it into a blessing. And that's what you're talking about, is Spirit reinterpreting it. What's the value? What was the payoff in this? And now what's the value in the lesson here? What can I learn from this experience about my beliefs?
That's
What I think I deserve.
Just remember that the statement about the Holy Spirit is never gonna do anything that's going to increase our fear.
Right, so I figure it's teaching, it's trying to help me, a teaching device, it's trying to help me learn
Well,
something
not the
about
sickness. Spirit
is
wants to, spirit, your higher self wants to use it for good.
right.
But it's not the sickness that came of itself that's trying to teach you. It's, you know, the sickness didn't just happen as an accident or something to teach you. The sickness or the suffering came from your fearful mind that believes you deserve to suffer. Okay? Your ego is a part of you that believes that you're guilty and that you deserve punishment. Okay. And then your higher self is like, let's look at this another way, shall we? Such that a blessing can be the result of this. Okay? Just remember, it's not God or Spirit that's giving us the suffering to teach us anything. Okay?
A loving father would not do that.
No, exactly. So always remember that it's not the universe or God or Spirit that gave you that suffering. That was the so-called gift of our ego, you know. And there's nothing that we make from our ego perspective, from our ego mind, that our loving right mind cannot correct and turn toward our good. There's nothing. It don't matter how horrible it seems to be. There's nothing that spirit, our loving right mind, can't turn into a blessing for all. Nothing. Nada. Zero. Nothing. Or else there'd be one illusion that was more powerful than love.
So just to maybe add a little more dimension to this discussion, on that lesson it talks about harboring attack thoughts as well. Also creates sickness. And is it the Song of Prayer where it's very clear in there that if you're maintaining grievances, that you're going to experience
Sickness.
physical sickness,
Suffering.
pain. Right. So, and then what's the answer there? It's always back to forgiveness.
It's always back to love. It's
Yeah.
always back to forgiveness.
So-
Always.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
that, like, yeah, that strand seems like that just kind of completes what.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you could say that every form of sickness, body, mind, or spirit, is some idea of not love. You know, it's some idea of something besides love will protect me and keep me safe. You know, it's some form of something not loving will benefit me, will help me, protect me, keep me safe.
And I know that I was sick a lot when I was younger because I think I was perceiving these grievances that was real, and I couldn't let them go, and I kept saying, I can't stand this. This is not me. They're doing, you know, and I was sick physically,
absolutely.
physically, as mentally,
Yes.
all the time, until I finally figured out it wasn't anything they ever did. They didn't. They were silly. They were grievances that really weren't.
Yes.
I made them up, but it took me a long time until I started.
Us too.
60,000 years.
Us too. Yeah.
It's hard to.
Until you realize that you are being affected only by your own thoughts, you will be full of grievances. You're going to be pissed off all the time.
All the time.
You know, and women in particular, because being angry was not seen as feminine in women tend to internalize their anger, and it tends to turn into sickness, physical sickness, or accidents. You know, whereas with men, typically it's you know, more socially acceptable for men to express anger externally. But with women, it's not very feminine to do that. You know, and so women tend to internalize it and then just get sick, right? More so. All right, wonderful, great conversation. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, now it says the shift in perception. All right, so we're going to go from a sick perspective. We're going to shift our perception. Beautiful. I love it. Bridget says, God is not a child abuser. Thank you, Bridget. I love your comments. And hi, Daniel, and hi, Zhu. I love it. Exactly. All right, here it says, the shift in perception. Healing must occur in exact proportion in which the valuelessness of sickness is recognized. So what do you mean by that? One need only say, there is no gain at all to me in this sickness, and they are healed. So, in the exact proportion at which I recognize that this sickness, this suffering is valueless to me, that is the exact proportion in which the sickness, in which the healing occurs. There's no value to me in this suffering anymore. It's not working. I was using it to keep me safe. It made me less safe. You know, I was using it to protect me from love. It didn't work. I'm still loved. You know, it's the sickness isn't working to, you know, for whatever it is I was using it to do. It's not working, and so the sickness as a defense against love is now valueless in my perception, in my awareness. And the moment I go, this shit ain't working anymore, and it's hurting me, it's not keeping me safe, it's not giving me specialness, it's not making people love me anymore at all, it's valueless. Healed. Wow, isn't that interesting? So I love, this is a very deep sentence. One need but say, there is no gain at all to me in this, and they are healed. Wow. But I knew there was a but in there somewhere. But to say there is no gain at all to me in this sickness, this suffering, one must first recognize certain facts. First fact, it is obvious that decisions are of the mind and not of the body. Okay? What makes decisions? Mind or body? Mind makes decisions. Okay? So if it's a decision, if sickness is a decision, it has to be coming from the mind, not the body. That's the first fact that needs to be recognized, needs to be acknowledged. Okay? It says, if sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, then sickness is a decision. And I love that definition of sickness, a faulty problem-solving approach. I'm in the hospital right now with a faulty problem-solving approach. Send chicken soup. Wow. And what a powerful thing to say about whatever problem, whatever way you're suffering, whether it's body, mind, or spirit. Remember, suffering is not just physical, you're going to experience suffering, body, mind, or spirit. Okay, so there's emotional suffering, there's spiritual suffering, there's psychic suffering, there's physical suffering. So remember, when we're talking about sickness, we're not just talking about physical, but it all starts in the mind. And what a powerful and empowering thing to say about your problem, your current suffering, is to tell yourself, this is my current faulty problem-solving approach. And it ain't working. It ain't making me happier. It ain't making me safer. It's not making people love me anymore. It's not making people want to be with me. It's not making people want to make me special or help me. It ain't working. It ain't working toward my real goal, which is to be happy and to be peaceful. Okay, so it says, and if this faulty problem-solving approach called sickness is a decision, it is the mind and not the body that is making this decision to be sick. This is the first fact that one must recognize before they can say this has no value. What was it that to say there is no gain at all to me in this? First, you got to recognize that it's coming from your mind, that it was the mind and not the body that made the decision for the sickness. This is coming from my mind. It's not coming from my body, even though it may be manifesting in my body. It's not coming from my body. It's coming from my mind. It's coming from a decision in my mind, a decision that I made so fast I don't remember making it. And I made it so long ago that I don't remember making it. But if sickness is a decision, then it was my mind that made it and not my body. So this is not coming from my body. That's the first fact I have to recognize before I can really say there is no gain at all to me in this, and then it disappear. And thank God we don't have to believe any of that to use it. Thank God. Because it's true, you don't have to believe it to use it and it work. Because it's true. It's like gravity. You know, you don't have to believe in gravity for it to work if you jump off a building. You know, I don't believe in gravity. Okay, but if you jump off a building, you're going to go down. You know, it's the same thing as true.
You'll leave real soon.
Yeah, and real fast. Some people faster than others. And the truth is, it doesn't matter if you believe it. When you use it, it has its effects. You don't have to believe the truth for the truth to operate, and to operate every single time consistently. Okay? Beautiful. So I love that, because we know we don't believe that this sickness is coming from my mind. It's just a decision of my mind. It's a faulty thought. I know, obviously I don't believe that fully. But every time I use it, I get the results, even if I don't believe it fully. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay. Now, then it says the resistance to recognizing that sickness is a decision of the mind is enormous. Right? The resistance to recognizing this fact is enormous. Why? Why is our resistance to recognizing this fact enormous? Because the existence of the world as we perceive it depends on the body being the decision maker. That's why. That explains it, doesn't it? The whole world as we see it depends on the body being where sickness and suffering is coming from. The body made me do it.
So if you
It's
think
genetics.
you're healthy in the body, if you think you're healthy, you don't have a lot of body things, but you're still, you don't think you're having as many problems.
Right. Well,
What?
sickness, remember, sickness and suffering is not just the physical. You know, maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's, maybe it's emotional sickness. Maybe it's, so maybe it's psychic. There's so many forms that sickness takes. But every form of sickness has something to do with the body. Whether it's the emotions, it's all about the body. It's something where you're suffering relative to your body. Okay? So when you have an emotional sickness, you're going to experience that in your body. Okay? And you're going to be upset all the time about what other people are doing in their bodies. Right? That's an emotional sickness. I'm always upset about what other people are doing with their bodies, or saying with their bodies, or are withholding from me through their bodies. Okay? All right.
I'm
So,
not clear on that, are you? Is that
Well, I guess it depends how you define sickness, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's any form of suffering. Sickness is any form of suffering. Okay? So and so, you know, it's not if your body is 100% healthy that you don't or you that you're not suffering.
But think
People
about how
suffer many different ways.
I think when we talk about sickness with other people all the time, it's always.
Oh, it's our favorite topic.
The heart.
Especially
It's
the older,
never- it's
especially the
never
older
my
people.
mind.
Right, exactly.
The heart
When
and
someone's
mind.
suffering, they never say, "My mind is suffering," or you know. I mean, they might, but usually it's like, "This is happening in my life, and this is happening, and this happening." Okay, all right.
But that word enormous that he uses in here, he never uses that word.
I know,
That's
and
a-
that so it's
that's a big
important. It's important. The resistance to this idea, this fact, is enormous because the whole world as we see it depends on the body being the decision maker. You know, that the body tells us how to feel, and we are the victims. Body says be sick, be hurt, be dead, and we are the victims. We have to just do whatever, feel whatever the body orders us to feel. Okay, and so the whole world as we see it depends on the mind is not the cause. You know, the cause of what's happening is not my mind, it's what's happening in the world. And the world is the body. There's this body, and then there's the body of the world. And the world, as we see it, is all about the bodies. Everything in the world is for the body, about the body. It's the body dream. You know, so everything in the ego world is all about the body. In the ego dream, the body is the hero and the central figure in the dreaming of the world. The body is the hero and the central figure of the dreaming of the world. So the dreaming of the world is where it's all about the body, what the body has, what the body does, what the body feels, what the body can get, what the body needs. And it's all about the body. The body's serial adventures from birth to death.
What if your doctor came in and said, we got your test results back and you've been harboring a lot of grievances?
That'd be a good doctor. That'd be a good doctor. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Now, it says, so it's talking about the resistance to the fact that all suffering is a decision and election of the mind that only the mind makes. Okay. And then it says terms like, quote, instincts and, quote, reflexes and the like represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators.
Wow.
Woo-wee. You're saying even my instincts and my reflexes are not instincts and reflexes. There are no non-mental motivators going on in my body. Wow, what about genetics? None. And that's been proven by our science that genetics is not what determines what happens with our body. Epigenetics has shown that. The study of genes, you know, where you've got one person who's got the genes of somebody who had this, whose parent had this, and you know, and they have these children. You know, it's not a given that the genes determine their health.
It may be a potential.
Yes,
but it's not the
exactly.
manifestation.
That's exactly right. You know, okay, well, if it's not the genetics that are determining what's manifesting physically, then what is it? Well, they've shown that it's the environment that the DNA is in that influences it, and they've also shown that what influences the environment that your DNA is in is your thoughts. You know, that your thoughts, what do you What do you, what thought patterns is your mind having that's what's determining what genes turn on, what genes turn off, what manifest physically, okay? And so the terms like instincts and reflexes just represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators. This is very hard to believe. This is very, very hard to believe. And so we just remember, we don't have to believe it. Actually, such terms as instincts and reflexes merely state or describe the problem. Instincts and reflexes describe the problem that I think it's my body telling me what's going to happen. It's my body telling me what's going on. It's my body telling me who I am and what needs to happen and what's happening and how to feel. That's the problem, that I think that that something that's not mental is telling me what to do. I'm a victim of my body, or I'm a victim of the world. Yeah, that's the problem. The problem is I do not understand the power of my thoughts. I don't get it. I don't understand the power of my thoughts. I do not understand the reality of creation. I don't understand creation, what creates. I think that shit happens and then I just have a decision about how I want to react to that. Do I like it? Do I not? You know, I'm a victim of what's happening in the world of bodies, and the only power I have is to decide whether I like it or not, or to decide who to blame. That's the power I think I have. The power to go, who's to blame? I pick you. Wow, powerful.
How special.
How special. And basically, it's whoever's around you the most. That's the one who's to blame for what you don't like, for your suffering. It's whoever's around the most. Hence the special relationship. Okay. Now, it says, right, the terms instinct and reflexes merely state or describe the problem. They don't answer the problem. The acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which the mind alone would use the body is the basis of healing. And this is so for healing in all forms.
Say that again.
I'm going to say that again. Thank you. That's one of those sentences. Please say that again. We have to keep saying it again and again and again and again. Why? Because remember, the resistance to this idea is enormous. Because the whole world as we see it now is based on the idea that we are victims of our bodies and the world of bodies. And so that's why A Course in Miracles uses repetition, 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 because it's the only way to cut through the enormous resistance. Because of our enormous resistance to this fact, we don't remember it. Literally, just like, you hear the idea and then you forget it in the next moment. That's because of this massive, enormous resistance. So it says, okay, this is one sentence. The acceptance of your suffering as a decision of your mind for a purpose for which your mind would use your body is the basis of the healing of your suffering. And this is so for healing in all forms. For instance, a patient or a person decides that this is true, and that person recovers. If this person decides against recovery, they won't be healed. Who is the physician? Who is the physician? Only the mind of the patient or the person themselves. What does that mean? That means the outcome is what the person, the patient, decides that the outcome is. And let's take a breath on that one, on that very hard to believe fact. Whew. All right. Now, special agents or medicines seem to be ministering to the patient, yet these special agents only give form to the patient's own choice. The patient, the person, chooses these special agents to bring tangible form to their desires. And it is this that the special agents, like the medicines and such, it's this they do and nothing else. These special agents, the medicine and such, are not actually needed at all. The patient could merely rise up without their aid and say, I have no use for this. And then there is no form of sickness that would not be cured at once.
Wow.
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 Dang.
Where do we go to get some?
Save a lot of health insurance for you.
To save a lot of money. To save a lot of money and a lot of suffering.
What do you have to keep saying over and over again?
And yes, we have to say it over and over. Now, we could say it one time and be done.
Well,
But the Course in Miracles says that's relatively very rare. Okay?
Well, the key is to accept.
so you have to say I have no.
Yes.
How long is it gonna take you to accept it?
Acceptance.
That's where it's coming from.
Exactly. Thank you. It's not the saying of it, it's the acceptance of it.
Because the but
Yes.
was that we have to recognize it.
Exactly. We have to recognize it. We have to recognize it, accept it. And so it's not about just saying it. I mean, you could say it one time, but it's really the acceptance. Acceptance of what? This is coming from a decision of my mind for a purpose that I'm using my body for. This is coming from a decision in my mind that I'm using my body for. That's what this is, this suffering, and because of the enormous resistance to this idea, it usually takes a while to accept that. We have been programmed and conditioned for so long. I mean, if you believe in reincarnation, then we've been being programmed to believe that our minds are victims of the body and the world for eons. And so forgive yourself, be compassionate for yourself, be empathetic for yourself, be merciful to yourself, be patient with yourself, because the programming has gone it's so ancient, and we've gone so deep into the programming. And so the Course in Miracles speaks to that, and it says the only thing that can cut through eons of programming is our infinite patience for ourselves and each other, which is the same as mercy, which is the same as patience and tolerance for ourselves, who have been programmed so deeply and gone so deep into that program. So it says, so the only thing that can cut through it is to go infinite patience, mercy on yourself. So none of this like, whoa, I'm a bad Course in Miracles student. I've been practicing this and, I'm still suffering and whoa,
It's like our programming is still in DOS and Spirit's running Windows 11.
Exactly. Thank you. Our programming was in DOS
No wonder I
and
don't
Spirit is in Windows 11. Thank you, Jerry. Leave it to Jerry to put it in some terms that we can all get. Yes. Shahira says mercy, infinite patience. Exactly. Now, the Course in Miracles says that the reason that infinite patience cuts through the eons of programming and conditioning is because it says infinite patience produces immediate effects. Because infinite patience calls upon infinite love. And when you call upon infinite love, you are calling upon a power that is unopposed. So remember that as you're practicing the mechanics of healing suffering, as you're practicing, don't forget the infinite patience and the mercy for yourself and for everybody else who has had eons of programming and conditioning around being a guilty victim. you know, that's the conditioning and that's the programming. You're guilty and you're a victim of the world, and your mind has no power. That's the programming. All right. Beautiful. I love it. And Shahira just says, That's great. Thank you, Shahira. Okay, great.
And a lot of times,
Have a good day.
the value, the perceived value is the punishment I get to give myself for, whatever I think I did it wrong.
Yes. Thank you. I love what Greg says, very important. One of the payoffs is in the suffering is that's the punishment that I believe I deserve, the punishment that everyone believes they deserve if they believe they are guilty. When we're young, what we're taught religiously or by osmosis is that you're guilty, and the only way to clear that guilt or to atone is to get your punishment. Then you're innocent, you can go back out and play again. That's what we learned, that the only way to clear guilt is to get your punishment. And so, and the Course in Miracles says, everyone longs for the innocence they are in their heart. That's what everyone, no exception, longs for in their heart, is the innocence they feel they have lost. That's everybody. Because innocence is our natural state. It is our origin. It is our original state. And everyone's longing for the innocence that we feel we've lost. Okay? And so whenever any of us feel guilty or shame, we automatically and unconsciously call to and attract punishment so that we can feel innocent again. Because that's what we all long for in our heart. And that's why guilt and shame is an unconscious request for punishment. And so one of the payoffs of the suffering, like Greg was saying, is, well, that's the punishment that I need so that I can feel innocent again.
The world's idea of repentance.
Punishment and suffering is the world's idea of repentance,
Right.
atonement, clearing the slate. So thank you for saying that. That's a very important point, that's one of the payoffs, to look at. I want to feel innocent again. And I believe this is the way to do it. If I just suffer enough, then God will have mercy on me. Right? That's another one. If I just suffer enough, then God, who, I've learned is punishing, will look at me and go, well, she suffered enough. I'll let her into heaven. She suffered enough. Like we do with little kids. Oh, see me suffering. I'm suffering so much. Right? You know, oh, all right, I won't send you to your room because look at you. You're all snot's coming out your nose and your knees are all bloody. All right, I won't punish you, you know, for running across the street. I won't punish you since you've suffered. You know, you can go back out to play. That's what we did as kids, and that's what we're still doing relative to God. Projecting onto God a punishing intent. Okay, beautiful. So let's see. Okay, I'll just read a few more sentences of the next paragraph and then we'll close up since it's, you know, it's going on, it's 8:18. Okay? Paragraph 3. What is the single requisite for this shift in perception? The single requisite for this shift in perception where you go, I have no need for this suffering, is simply this: the recognition that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. All right. Now, what does this recognition, quote, cost? This recognition that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body cost the world we see. Oh, that's it? Why? Why does this recognition cost the whole world we see? Because the world will never again appear to rule our mind. Wow. So the shift in perception where we go, I have no need for this and you are healed, says that shift, the cost of that is the recognition that the sickness of the mind has nothing to do with the body, and the cost of that recognition is the whole world we see. Oh, that's it? Just that. Just the whole world. It's like, I want to recognize that sickness is of my mind, it has nothing to do with my body, but I will never experience the world again the same. I'll never experience the world again as appearing to rule me, ruling over me. I will never experience myself again as a victim of the world I see. That's the cost. That's the only cost of the recognition that this suffering is of my mind and has nothing to do with my body or the circumstances. Wow. Now, I want to be healed, but I kind of been attached to the whole victim thing. You know, the whole victim thing, like, you know, why are they doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? You need to change so I can be happy. You know, and it's like we've been kind of working that thing, you know? It's like, well, I don't want to give that up. You know, I've been kind of like, you know, haven't had to take responsibility for my own happiness. I just kind of figured out who needed to change around me and what needed to change besides me. And then I gave them a lot of guilt and, you know, and then they tried to change, you know. I mean, they never did it good enough, but, you know. And that's kind of been our thing. It's kind of been the leverage we've been using in our relationships, right? You know, you need to change for me to be happy. This needs to change for me to be happy. You need to change to make me feel lovable. You need to change to make me feel safe, because obviously I'm a victim of you. Okay? And so we have been using that sickness, like if you're not suffering, how much is other people going to believe you when you tell them, I need you to change for me to be happy? And they're like, but you're already happy. Oh. Right? And so to give up seeing the world outside of us, to give up seeing ourselves as a victim of the world and others, is to give up what we have always thought made us safe. Like, if I don't give them guilt to get them to change so they don't leave me, then I'll be alone. And if I don't give them guilt for how they're making me miserable, then it will be obvious I'm doing it to myself, and then I look crazy. Your friends already think you're crazy. And so it seems like this idea that my suffering is of my mind, has nothing to do with my body, it seems like it's asking me to give up the very thing that I've been using, that I think has been kept me not being abandoned and has kept me safe and kept me special. And so it seems like it's asking me to give up the very thing that I've been using, the very thing that I've believed, keeps me from being alone. No wonder the resistance is enormous. No wonder. And it says, because with this recognition that sickness is of my mind and has nothing to do with my body, is responsibility placed where it belongs, not with the world, not with other people, but on us who look on the world and see the world as it is not. The world does nothing. What we look on we look on what we choose to see, no more and no less. In other words, the world does nothing to us. We only thought it did, and nor do we do anything to the world, because we were mistaken about the world is. Herein is the release from guilt and sickness both, because they are one. Yet to accept this release, the insignificance of the body must be an acceptable idea. With this idea is pain gone forever. Whew, that was a mouthful. All right. Now,
There's that thing where you take responsibility again for yourself and your thoughts, and you don't put it out on everyone else and say,
if you were different, I'd be happy.
I can't think clearly,
That's
or I can't do this.
right.
It's amazing.
It's your fault I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And so the one fact, the recognition of the fact that my suffering is of my mind, my decision, and has nothing to do with my body or the circumstances of the world, that is the acceptance of that. The recognition and acceptance of that is what heals sickness and suffering like that. Okay, but to accept that and to be healed of the suffering, you have to accept the fact that the world does nothing to you. You have to accept the fact that you are fully 100% responsible for your experience.
I'm not a victim of the world.
And that you are not a victim of the world you see.
I have done this to myself, and this I would undo.
Exactly. The Course in Miracles says there's nothing that won't be healed when you say, it is this I have done, and it is this I would undo. That's it. He says there's nothing that, there's no illusion, no suffering that can resist that fact when you accept it. Now, the reason why we can say it over and over and over like we've done, those of us who've been studying A Course in Miracles and then other metaphysics for years and years, we've been saying it for years, and yes, and we've had miraculous results. That's why we still keep coming back to A Course in Miracles. but we still experience suffering because we haven't chosen yet complete acceptance. We're working toward that. That's what we're working toward. But each time we've even tried it or practiced it, we got miraculous results. And so, this is a curriculum that we're practicing, and it takes time because our resistance is enormous. It doesn't have to take time, but it usually does. For most humans, it takes a long time to accept that fact and say, I'm doing this to myself, and this has no value to me anymore. And then, boop, suffering gone. So be patient with yourself, be merciful with yourself, and just know that that you're practicing. It says readiness is not mastery. First, we have a long period of being ready to be ready before we fully accept and have acceptance and experience mastery. So readiness is not mastery. So remember that and be patient with yourself.
And then I hope, I do believe in reincarnation. If I do, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come back and start here and not spend 70 years starting over. I want to go from here.
That's great. And
That's what I want to do.
since the only thing that determines what you experience relative to your body is your decision, then you get to experience that. Absolutely. So me, I don't want to come back.
Well, I don't either.
Yeah.
But
So, but if I do, I would like to be born to somebody like me.
yeah. Perfect.
So,
Okay.
all right, beautiful. Hi guys on YouTube. Hi Carolina. And they disappear so fast. All right. Okay, so we're going to stop here. We're just going to do announcements and then a few minute integration meditation. Let's all take a breath. That's some deep thoughts, eh? So Carol, Carol, of all the classes for you to walk in, your first class. Wow. You must have been. That's exactly. Well, what does that tell you about you? What does that tell you about you? Yes, exactly, that you worked for it. All right. Bye, guys.
That was great. Thank you. So we'll see you Monday after next, not
Yes,
4th.
yes, we're not doing next Monday. Next Monday is 4th of July, not next Monday. Okay. All right, so announcements are this. Greg and I do 2 Transforming Relationships Through A Course in Miracles on Facebook twice a week, Sundays and Tuesdays, 7 p.m. It's a really fun, fantastic class to do to learn how to apply these ideas to all of your relationships. Okay, and then this is our Monday practical and healing applications of A Course in Miracles. And if you are in the Denver area, come on down to the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center where we're doing classes in person again, and have the experience of doing Course in Miracles with in a loving community of Course in Miracles students. So if you're in the Denver area, come join us. It's a whole nother experience studying A Course in Miracles with a circle of people. It's that's what I hear a lot of you guys say. It's wonderful to do it with others. It has a lot of power to it. So if you're in the Denver area, come on down to the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center in the DU area. Also, if you're in the Denver area, the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center has a fantastic Sunday service at 11 a.m. where it's a Sunday service, but it's Course in Miracles. So just know that that's available. It's 11 a.m. Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, 1939 South Monroe Street in Denver. You can just Google it. All right. Wonderful. All right, so now we're just going to do a few minute integration meditation where we take the ideas and we use them. So, take a breath, close your eyes, and breathe. And just tune in to how you feel right now on the inside, having heard these ideas. How does it feel to have heard these ideas? And how does it feel to hear them in a circle of like-minded, mighty companions? And just take note of how that feels, so that maybe we can remember this feeling. That we can remember this feeling is possible. Beautiful. Now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation or a relationship where you are experiencing some suffering in some form, body, mind, or spirit. Take a breath. And now we are going to tell ourselves the truth about this suffering. We're going to bring it to truth. We're going to tell the truth about it that we heard today. And the first thing I want you to say to yourself, or the question I want you to ask yourself about this suffering is I want you to ask yourself, what is this for? What is the payoff to me in this suffering, in this problem? What is the benefit your ego is getting out of it? And how is it that your ego might be using this suffering? And now I want you to ask this question of your suffering. What is it that I have believed that this is getting me? What is the something of greater worth that I believe that this suffering is a small price to pay? Take a breath. And now I want you to tell yourself, this suffering is my choice for weakness in my mistaken conviction that weakness is strength. And tell yourself, this suffering is an election, it's a decision of my mind. Even if I don't recognize or remember that. And then I want you to tell yourself, this problem, this suffering is a faulty problem-solving approach. And now I want you to say to yourself with as much conviction as you can muster within yourself, and say to yourself, there is no gain. There is no gain at all to me in this suffering. It's only costing me. There is no gain at all to me in this suffering. Now tell yourself, this is not happening to me. Tell yourself, and I have no more use for this. Now tell yourself, because peace is my protection. Love is my protection. And I am safe right now because I am only love. Now and forever. And breathe. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, open your eyes, take a breath, yawn and stretch. Beautiful. Good work. Good work, guys. Way to heal. Beautiful.
Really powerful class.
Thank you. That was very powerful. Thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate your participation and your presence. Thank you for using your very valuable time to join this healing circle. And I'll see you next class.